So, pleasant day to each and everyone. The topic that I will be going to discuss for today is all about the grading system in K-12 basic education program. So, before I proceed with my proper discussion, let me read to you first the lesson objectives. So, at the end of the lesson, the students can discuss the purpose of grading system in K-12 basic education program, explain the importance of grading system in the student learning process, illustrate how the learner's progress are recorded and computed, and apply the steps in computing and recording the grades of the learners as future educator.
Let's discuss first how our learners assess in the classroom.
So according to the debit order number 8 series of the 2015 policy guidelines on classroom assessment for the K-12 basic education program, in line with the implementation of the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013, the Department of Education is adopting the enclosed policy guidelines on classroom assessment for the K-12 basic education program. So when we say assessment, it is a process that is used to keep track of learners' progress in terms of learning standards and in the development of 21st century skills in order to encourage students to have self-reflection and self-responsibility for their own learning. And classroom assessment, it is a collaborative process that involves both teachers and students, and it is an essential component for both teaching and learning. So what is K-12 grading system? Under this order, we have the written works, performance task, and quarterly assessment or WW, PT, and QA scores of students from grade 1 to grade 12 and will be the base of their summative assessment results. And these three have specific percentage weights that vary based on the nature of the learning area. So first, we have the written work. So in written work, it assesses learners' understanding of concepts and application skills. And we have the performance task, which it gives the students freedom to express their learning in appropriate and diverse ways. And lastly, the quarterly assessment, it synthesizes all the learning skills, concepts, and values learned in entire quarter. Then, how learners' progress are computed and recorded in kindergarten. So, the teacher is going to use portfolio. So, the portfolio can demonstrate how much or how well the learners can achieve the skills and competencies. And next, the teacher will be able to use checklists to determine whether or not the child is able to demonstrate knowledge and or perform the task expected of kindergarten students. And through anecdotal records or narrative reports, teachers will be able to describe learners' behaviors, attitudes, and efforts in schoolwork. So next, how to compute for final grades and general average in DepEd K-12 grading system.
The following are the steps in computing final grades. First, grades from all student work are added up.
So in the first step, this results in the total score for each component, namely written work, performance task, and quarterly assessment.
Second, the sum for each component is converted to the percentage score.
In the step 2, to compute the percentage score, we should divide the raw score by the highest possible score, then multiply the quotient by 100%. And this is shown here, and we will be using this formula in order to get or compute the percentage score.
In the third one, the percentage scores are then converted to weighted scores to show the importance of each component in promoting learning in the different subjects.
And in the third step, to do this, the percentage score is multiplied by the weight of the component. So we gave already the weighted components or scores here, and this one is the weighted components from grade 1 to grade 10, and this one is from senior high school. And the grading system for senior high school follows a different set of weight for each components.
4. The sum of the weighted scores in each component is the initial grade.
And in step 4, here we'll be able to use the transmutation table to transmute the initial grade to get the quarterly grade. And lastly,
the quarterly grade for each learning area is written in the report card of the student.
now we're in the steps for computing the grades. Step 1. Get the total score of each component.
So the components of category grading system are written work, performance task, and the last one is quarterly assessment. For our example, let us assume that we have a student named Annalyn Bartolome, and she is a grade 10 student, and we are going to compute her grade in English for the first quarter. In getting the total score of each component, we have to consider two things, and these are the raw score and the highest possible score. For the written works of Miss Bartolome, she was able to comply all the 7 written works, and these are the scores with a total of 140. On the second column, which is the highest possible score of each written works with a total score or with a total of 165. Next is the performance task. So, here she was able to comply all the 6 performance tests as well, and these are the scores. The total of the raw score is 92. Next column is the highest possible score, and the total of it is 125. For the last component, we have the quarterly assessment, and Miss Bartolome got 38 score out of 50 items. So let us summarize all the results. The total score of Miss Bartolome in written works is 140 over 165. For the performance task, she got 92 over 125. And for her quarterly assessment, she got the score that she attains is 38 over 50.
Step 2. Divide the total raw score by the highest possible score, then multiply the quotient by 100%.
After we get the total scores of each component, we are now going to get the percentage scores of each component using the formula for the percentage score. So percentage score is equal to total raw score divided by the total highest possible scores times 100. Let's begin in written works. Percentage score is equal to 140 divided by 165 multiplied by 100 is equal to 84.85. Next is performance task. Percentage score is equal to 92 divided by 125 times 100. We have 73.6. The last one is quarterly assessment. Percentage score is equal to 38 divided by 50 multiplied by 100 is equal to 76. To summarize it, the percentage score for the written work is 84.85, for the performance task is 73.6, and for the quarterly assessment, we got 76 percentage score.
Step 3. Convert percentage score to the weighted score. Multiply the percentage score by the weight of the components.
Since we are now done in getting the percentage score of each component, in this type, we are going to convert the percentage scores to weighted scores using the formula for weighted score. So weighted score is equal to percentage score times weighted component. First, let us identify what are the weighted components of each component of K-12 reading system. In English, the written work is 0.30 or 30. The performance task is 0.50 or 50. And for the quarterly assessment, we have 0.20 or 20. So these are the weighted components. Let us now proceed to the computation. Starting in written works, we have the weighted score, which is equal to 84.85 times 30. We have 25.46. In performance task, weighted score is equal to 73.6 multiplied by 50. We have 36.8. And lastly, the quarterly assessment weighted score is equal to 76 times 20 is equal to 15.2. So that is the process on how we can convert percentage score into weighted score. So let us summarize the result. The weighted score for the written work is 25.46. In performance task, she has 36.8, and for the quarterly assessment, she gets 15.2 weighted score.
Step 4. Add the weighted score of each component and the result will be the initial grade.
Since we already have the weighted score of each component, we can now proceed to step 4, which is getting the initial grade by simply adding all the weighted score of each component. So again, the weighted score for written work is 25.46. For the performance task, we have 36.8. And for the quarterly assessment, we have 15.2. Once we add all the weighted scores, and the result is 77.46. So basically, the initial grade that we have is 77.46.
Step 5. Transmute the initial grade using the transmutation table.
So after we compute the initial grade, we are now going to transmute it using the transmutation table. So here is an example of transmutation table. So in accordance to the transmutation table, the equivalent value of 77.46 is 85. Therefore, the grade of our student here, which is Miss Bartolome in English for the first quarter, is 85. So that's how we compute quarterly grade.
Then how are grades computed at the end of school year? So at the end of the school year, the teachers will use two formulas to compute final grades and general average. First is final grade by learning area is equal to first quarter plus second quarter plus third quarter plus fourth quarter and divided by 4. And the second one is general average, which is equal to sum of the final grades of all learning areas and divided by the total number of learning areas in grade level.
For example, the table is the representation of the grades of Miss Bartolome in all subjects. In computing final grades, let's use English as an example. So final grade by learning area is equal to 85 for the first quarter plus 85 for the second quarter plus 86 for the third quarter plus 90 for the fourth quarter and divided by 4, which is equal to 86.5. So the final grade of Miss Bartolome in English is 87. 87 because we also need to round it up. Once we apply this computation process in all these subjects, we can be able to get these final grades in each learning area. When the final grades are all done, we can now compute for the general average. So general average is equal to 83 for the science, plus 95 for the math, plus 87 for English, plus 91 for the Filipino, plus 88 for Araling Panlipunan, plus 91 for EPP, and plus 90 for the MAPE, divided by 7, which is the number of subject in grade 10 level. So the total general average of the students here for her grading level is 89. That's how we compute the grades of our students at the end of the school year.
Next, how is the learner's progress reported?
If the learners receive a transmuted grade of 90 and above, it is equivalent to outstanding and the student's remark is pass. If the learner receive a transmuted grade of 85 to 89, then that is equivalent to very satisfactory and the student's remark is also pass. The learner receive a transmuted grade of 80 to 84, then that is equivalent to satisfactory and the student's remark is also pass. Next, the learner receive a transmuted grade of 75 to 79, then that is equivalent to fairly satisfactory and the student's remarks is also pass. Then if the learner receive a transmuted grade of below 75, then the descriptor of the student is it did not meet the expectation, which means the student is remarked as failed.
So the summary of learners' progress is shown quarterly to parents and guardians through a parent-teacher conference in which the report card is discussed. A learner who receives a grade below 75 in any subject in a quarter must be given intervention through remediation and extra lessons from the teachers of that subject in order for that student to have a chance to be promoted to the next grade level. Next is how learners promoted or retained at the end of the school year.
So this one is from grade 1 to grade 3 learners. This one is for grade 4 to grade 10 learners. And this one is for the grade 11 to grade 12 learners.
So remedial classes are conducted after the final grades have been computed. The learner must pass the remedial classes to be promoted to the next grade level. By doing so, this will prevent a student from failing in any learning area at the end of the school year. So for senior high schools, for the senior high school student, they should pass the summative assessment during remediation to avoid a failing grade in a learning area or subject. This will prevent students from having back subjects in senior high school. Next is recomputed final grades. So what about the recomputed final grade? The computed final grade is needed if one of the students attended a remedial class for the reason that he or she got a failing grade in any learning area or subject.
For example, Mr. Juan de la Cruz, a grade 10 student, received a final grade of 73 in English. After he attended remedial class, he was able to get 85 for his remedial class mark. In order for us to get the computed final grade of the learner, we are going to use the RFG formula. So the recomputed final grade is equal to final grade plus remedial class and divided by 2. For the computation, RFG is equal to 73 plus 85 divided by 2 is equal to 79. Therefore, the computed final grade of Mr. De La Cruz will be 79, and that is now the new final grade of the student in the English subject. And the same process will be utilized if the learner had a failing grade in any subject and took remedial classes.
So the teacher after middle class issues the certificate of recomputed final grade, which is noted by the school principal. This is submitted to division office and must be attached to both Form 137 and the school form. So here is the sample of certificate recomputed final grade. So as for the summary of this lesson, grading is a method of assessing and providing comments on student work. Grades help teachers determine which knowledge, ideas, and skills pupils have effectively comprehended and which they have not. This type of information informs you of what you may need to repeat in class and what you may need to be the work in the course design. Instructors should consider the connection of their assignments to the course broader goals and express their expectations and grading processes in a clear manner. Students are often strongly motivated to improve their work when assignment instructions are clear and visible, grading criteria are clear and fair, and feedback is timely and well connected with the assignment in issue. This level of openness also allows students to realize what skills and topics they have gained as well as what they are currently dealing with in the course. So here is my references. Thank you for listening.